first topic, Night Stalker documentary on Netflix. What's it about? It's about a serial killer that was at large in LA, I think it was like 1985 the year was. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. I actually watched this like a week ago. I've been sitting on this goddamn episode notes for a while. I was able to do it on Friday, but I had these notes put together on Friday, but I just didn't record, so that's on me, I guess, because I'm lazy. But anyway, it's a docuseries, again, about a serial killer. They gave him the name The Night Stalker in LA in the 80s. He killed and raped a shit ton of people. He molested a shit ton of kids. So, yeah. Little caution here. This is probably going to be a little bit of a ranty topic because, spoiler alert, I'm not the biggest fan. I wasn't the biggest fan of this documentary. So, let's get into it. Couple things that I want to go over here on what a documentary or a docuseries kind of needs to do for it to be, I guess, good, in my opinion. What I believe good documentaries do, in my opinion. So I think it does 5 main things. I mean, obviously, technically, it needs to be, well done, but 5 major things stand out to me with documentaries that that I've reviewed and that that I enjoyed. Number 1, it's easy to follow and you don't get lost while you're watching it. This, comes down to, there's usually a lot of characters in docuseries because there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of moving pieces. So you kind of need to explicitly tell you who's who and so you can follow along as the docuseries progresses. Also needs to keep a strict timeline so you know when events and when characters are doing things and where they're at. And it has to be consistent. I mean, usually docuseries and documentaries don't really jump around because when you do that, your audience tends to get pretty lost. And also clear descriptions and clear, perceptions on certain big events that the documentary is going over, and a bunch of other things that kind of make it cohesive, and things that make sense. Basically, don't let me get lost. 2, teach me something new about a certain event or a certain person that I didn't know before, and it's also necessary and important for me to know about. Don't just tell me about some person or some event that happened and not have a point of why you're telling me about it. Number 3, provide a different perspective on a certain event. Like maybe the docuseries is about a certain event or a certain person that everybody knows about, but maybe shed some new light on it, maybe share us a different perspective or that a lot of people aren't privy to. That's something a documentary could do to make it a lot good. A lot better, or, good. I can talk, don't worry. I believe in myself. I can do this without, fumbling over my own words. Moving on. Number 4, treat the events of the documentary with respect that it deserves. And number 5, not all documentaries have to have this, but it really sets the documentary to another level. Have an underlying message or theme that's called back to or revealed at the end, or it can just be consistent throughout the docuseries. Like something that, yes, this documentary is technically about this, but it's really also about this. A good example of that is my review on Murder on Middle Beach. If you haven't watched that review, highly recommend it. It's on my channel. It's on my YouTube channel. Check that out. But that docuseries was really great. But yes, it's about a kid or a dude who just wants to find out who killed his mother. Yes, that's the main premise. But a good underlining message and theme of the docuseries as it goes along, and it becomes clear to you that, like, oh, this is a documentary about how people, grieve. Everyone grieves differently, and it doesn't make them different or wrong to grieve in a certain way because everyone deals with loss differently. And I thought that was really awesome and a very powerful message that that comes across in the documentary. So that's a really good example. Even the Tiger King came out early in 2020 had a good underlining message. Like, yeah, it's about this weird, tiger zoo owner that, allegedly wanted to kill this other person. But it's also about maybe if we all looked ourselves in the mirror every once in a while, we live in a better world. And maybe we wouldn't, confrontations wouldn't escalate so far that we want to kill the other person. Maybe if we just looked at ourselves and, criticized ourselves every once in a while, not heavily, but, enough to not want to kill each other. So, yeah, 5 things that I think a docuseries kind of needs to do in order to be good in my eyes. So, does this documentary, The Night Stalker, do any of those things? Not really, in my opinion. This is my opinion. 1, there's a lot of killings. This piece of shit killed a lot of people and raped a lot of people. And, again, the docuseries makes sure to put time, a time stamp in front of you of certain events, but it's just a lot. And sometimes I did get a little bit lost. I was like, wait, okay, so this was this time. When did they connect this to this murder? And what? I mean, it's not that hard to follow. I think it does actually. This is one of the important things a docuseries needs to do, that this docuseries does do on a decent level. And I think it probably does the best it could, because there are a lot of killings. And especially if you're just going to summarize each killing that this guy did, I guess this is the way to do it. But again, he killed a lot of people over, I think a span of maybe a little over a half a year, but it was probably a lot longer than that. It's just, police didn't catch on or connect all these murders. But number 2, I don't think this, hold on. A lot of notes here. Sorry. I didn't know about this guy before watching this. So yeah, I learned about him, but I never really got the point why I needed to know about him. I didn't need to know about this guy who killed a bunch of people in LA. I feel like that's kind of my main gripe about the docuseries. And it doesn't really provide us with any interesting perspectives on the case. I mean, I guess it gives us the media perspective and the perspective of these 2 police officers that were hunting him down and trying to catch him. What I thought was the most compelling part of the docuseries, and I thought that could have been honestly the main message about it. We'll go over that a little bit later, but yeah, I mean, I guess it can go over how selfish some people can be, whether it's the media trying to break a story and reveal certain information, or, police officers just kind of being selfish and wanting to catch, being the ones to apprehend them and catch them, rather than, letting someone else or something else help catch him that might, not have you be the one to apprehend the guy. I thought that, again, those are themes that are kind of short-lived. And it always kind of reverts back to, oh, what's another person that this dude killed next? But my main gripes for the docuseries was that I feel like it doesn't really treat these tragic events with the respect that it deserves. And there's really no other point to this documentary than summarizing what this piece of shit did to people. And that's it. So let's expand on how it doesn't really treat these events with the respect it deserves, really. When it does go over the killings and the gruesome acts of this guy, the docuseries almost reenacts it or recreates it with footage that the docuseries creates, whether it's a hammer, bloody hammer dropping, or just a dead body, on it recreates the gruesome murder almost, while they're interviewing the victims' families. And it just felt really weird and off-putting and kind of gross, in my opinion. And it shows pictures of the actual murder scene. Yeah, it blocks out the eyes of the person, but it doesn't really block out anything else. And it's like, I don't really need to see that really. I mean, it's not that it's like, I'm not a person who like, like is afraid to look at blood and gore or anything. I'm not like nauseous about it or anything. I feel like it was just a little bit in poor taste, especially with my, following gripes about the docuseries, and just they keep on reverting to like putting this fucking dude on this pedestal of, all descriptions of people who saw him. They're like, oh man, I just took one look at his eyes and I just saw the evil, and then there's just so much evil in his eyes. And one of the cops were just like, well, I was like really afraid that he was just going to start levitating in the interview room because he like was raising his hands or something. It's like, why are we putting this guy on this pedestal? Like, he's a piece of shit human being who wasn't even that creative about killing people. He just went into people's houses that he could and shot people in their sleep and raped women. Like he's a piece of shit. And it was indiscriminate. He just did it because he just wanted to do it because he worshipped the devil, or he was beyond good and evil. And they keep playing these recordings of his interviews when he was on death row, and it's just like they keep showing these menacing pictures of him like looking real menacing and evil, and it's like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, why are we immortalizing this guy and giving this dude notoriety? Like, really, this is the guy that we want to make a whole docuseries about? Like, he's such a basic bitch of a serial killer too. Like, oh well, I worship Satan, hail Satan, I'm so evil. Like, okay, dude, like, cool, real original. I mean, I guess it was back in the 80s, but now it's like, this dude's just a piece of shit. Like, he's just a piece of shit. I don't really give a fuck how tragic his life was. Like, a lot of people have tragic lives. Doesn't mean they go around murdering and raping people. Like, what the fuck? Which leads me into, like, my final huge gripe is, what was the fucking point of this docuseries? Like, I was struggling to find like an underlining theme or message this docuseries was trying to give me, and like the best thing I could come up with was, lock your goddamn fucking doors at night. That's it. Like, literally, like, there's no point other than summarizing this guy's exploits and kind of immortalizing them. Like, I shit you not, the last fucking word of this documentary is this asshole's name. And then, boom, title card, Night Stalker. Like, what? And I was like, I literally just threw my hands up. I like threw my notepad. I was like, fuck this. Bullshit. This is stupid. I was so pissed. I was like, ugh. Like, there's no, I don't know. Like, I was just struggling to find, like, what, like, okay, I know about this guy and how, like, what this guy did. Great. Why did I need to know that? I mean, again, I'm the person who watched this docuseries, so I'm partially to blame for this. So this is kind of why I'm making this. I'm putting this in my podcast. Don't really watch this, because it does nothing other than give this fucker notoriety. Like, that's it. And I mean, I don't want to shit on this documentary, like, wholeheartedly, even though it kind of pissed me off. But I mean, like, it does do some things well. I think it utilizes B-roll pretty well. Like, the recreations of the murders that I thought was in kind of poor taste. I mean, they're well done. They creep you out. They're unsettling, which is the goal. There's some decent cinematography, in here. I think there's one shot that stands out, is that, like, the camera's like moving through the skyscrapers of LA, but like it's at night, and like the shot's like flipped upside down, and maybe it was like the unsettling music. Like, that shot really stuck with me after watching it for some reason. It was just kind of, I don't know, it was cool imagery. I was like, oh, this is really creepy. This gives me a really weird feeling. I thought that was really cool. I mean, like I said, it does introduce some good things, especially with the two main police officers that were investigating this guy and trying to catch him. You know, like I feel like this could have been a lot better as just a film about these two police officers with an underlining theme of commitment and sacrifice and what it really takes to capture a fucking psycho like this. You know, but like again, those themes are kind of present in this documentary, but they're so short-lived. Like they always just revert back to the next murder, the next rape, the next victim, the next picture of this fucking asshole. Like it always reverts back to the Night Stalker. And I get it. The docuseries is called Night Stalker, but I will counter with, why the fuck are we making a documentary about this guy? Like, what? What is the point? Other than that. So, yeah, I mean, overall thoughts on the docuseries. I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend watching this, in my opinion. It might be a well-done docuseries, but again, with my standards that I hold documentaries to, it doesn't really fit. It doesn't meet any of them. Like maybe it meets one of them with kind of being cohesive and sort of easy to follow, but everything else that I went over earlier in this review, it doesn't really do. And I found it kind of in poor taste and a bit annoying how it keeps reverting to immortalizing this Night Stalker guy. I mean, like, I was so, like, taken aback how, like, the last word of the series was the dude's actual name, and then boom, Night Stalker in this dramatic fashion. And it was just like, it's so weird. I was like, man, really? This is what we're making documentaries about? Like, I mean, this is why I never watched that docuseries, the Ted Bundy tapes, because I'm like, I don't want to fucking listen to this guy talk. Like, I don't give a fuck what this dude has to say. Like, and you shouldn't either. Like, why are we giving these people the time of day? Like, it's kind of part of the reason why I find it kind of gross how mainstream news outlets all, like, just kind of always run with mass shooting stories when they were kind of the thing to do, I guess. You know, before the pandemic and before, a little bit before that, it was just, it seemed like every other week there was some mass shooting or attempt at a mass shooting. We always had to hear about it. It's like, why are we giving these people, these cowards, like, the time of day? I just found it so stupid. So, I mean, if you want to watch it, I mean, it's on Netflix. So, yeah, I mean, if you can watch it, but I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend the series. I think there's better docuseries on there. If you haven't seen The Tiger King, watch that. If you haven't seen Murder on Middle Beach, watch that. It's so much better. Like, it's also more entertaining. Both of those are just more entertaining than this one. So, yeah. Hello there. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you're unfamiliar with this channel, this is Nerd Out Sanctuary. I'm your host, Michael. What do I talk about, you say? Well, I talk about anything nerdy. So that's movies, video games, TV shows, comic books every once in a while. Books, maybe not. I don't know. Anything that I feel like talking about. I'm a huge nerd. I hope you're a huge nerd, and I hope we can enjoy our nerdiness together here. This is a full audio podcast available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, the major podcast platforms. So consider going over to those and checking out the full version of the episode. And other past episodes, please leave me a review and subscribe on those platforms. If you don't want to do that, clipped, shorter versions of those full episodes will be posted here on YouTube. So consider subscribing and liking the videos for more to support me and future content that I will be producing in the future on nerdy stuff. So yeah, thank you, and see you on the next one.